this project, I'm going to show you how to use Tinkercad. We're going to use some of the top 10 tools inside of Tinkercad to show you how to get started with 3D model. So let's go and get started. So the first thing that we need to do is go to the bottom left of our screen where it says usernames and codes. Go ahead and click on that. Then you can have a link for our classrooms. So you need to click on the classroom login link before we start the project. Once you click on the link, you're going to join with a nickname. Your nickname is going to be your first name and then the first letter of your last name. So your first name and then the first letter of your last name without spaces in between your first name and the first letter of your last name. Click on That's Me. After you log in, you might be able to see the assignment here. But let's go back to Teams so we could actually show you the next time you log in. So we're going to go back to Teams, click on the assignment. The assignment's going to be called Tinkercad Starters. You're going to have two links. One of them is going to be the video, and then the other one's going to be the tutorial that we're going to do for Tinkercad to show us how to use Tinkercad. So go ahead and click on that. It's going to take us back to Tinkercad, and it's going to take you straight to the tutorial. So we're only going to do the first 10. Here's 4 of them right here. Let's click on View All. So there's 3, 6, 9, and this will be the last one here. Let's go back to the top one. Click on the first one called Place It. Over on the left hand side, you're going to have instructions. Over on the right hand side, you might already see forms. This is not an actual form, it's just telling you where to place the object that they're asking for over on the left hand side. So over on the left hand side, they want you to bring a box to this place here. So let's bring a box or a cube and go ahead and place it. And we can move these that pop up by clicking on the arrow on the top. And if we zoom in, looks like it could be placed a little bit better. So if I have my cube selected, I could click on it. I'm going to use this view cube that we're going to learn about. I'm going to click on that. And I could nudge the cube using the arrow keys on my keyboard by tapping the up arrow if I'm looking at it from the top view. So now it looks aligned. I'm going to click on next. So over here on the left hand side, it's telling you about a feature called Cruise. So if I have an object inside of my workplace and I drag an object over to it, it's going to cruise on top of the object that's already in our work plane. So let's go and click on next. So it wants us to drag another box from the shapes panel over on the right hand side. Let's drag a box, and this would be the cruise feature here. So as I drag it on top of this pyramid shape, it's appearing to be placed on top of each step. But I want to place it on the top, and to deselect this, I'm going to click on some blank space over on the left hand side, like the instructions ask, and then click on next. This is how you know you did the tutorial correctly, when you get the confetti. But what I want you to do before you click onto the next one and you click on done is over here on the top right, I want you to take a screenshot of this so that you can attach these screenshots when you're all done. So let's click on where it says send to, and you're going to click on the down arrow, and you can leave these in your downloads folder until you're ready to attach them all. But let's go ahead and leave that inside of our downloads folder. Back to Tinkercad, let's click on done and then continue. Make sure you read the instructions on the left hand side, and then click on next. It's telling us that we could practice zooming on our different objects that are inside of our work plane. So this is the work plane here. We could use the plus and the minus to zoom in or to zoom out. If you have a touch screen, you could pinch to zoom or to zoom out. You should be able to do the same thing with your trackpad that's on your keyboard. You should be able to pinch to zoom or to zoom out. Let's click on next. So now it's telling us about the view cube that I showed you on the last part of the tutorial. So since we have touchscreens, you can use your finger to drag around your 3D model with one index finger on your screen. You can use the right mouse button to orbit around your 3D model. You could hold down control on your keyboard and then drag around with your trackpad. Let's click on the next button, and then let's take a screenshot once we get that confetti. So top right, click on send to, down arrow to download, and let's leave those in our downloads folder till the end. Click on done. Continue. So there's nothing much to do here on the first step. We just have to click on next on the bottom left. And what this wants us to do is we want to drag these cubes over to these cubes over here in the corner. So you're going to click and then drag, click, drag. Try to make sure they're aligned. We'll do that here in a second. Click and then drag. So that one was able to snap in. And then we're going to click on this view cube. Click on the top. I'm going to use 2 fingers on my screen to scoot up. I'm going to click on the cube, and I'm going to tap the left arrow key or the up arrow key to adjust these cubes. Same thing here. I could pinch to zoom. And all I had to do for that one was tap the down arrow. Let's click on next. Now we can't see from this angle, so let's go from a front angle. What we have to do here is click on our cubes and then drag up to get to the new placement of the cubes. So we're going to select this first one here. Now I'm going to click on this black cone and drag up. Same thing with the back one. Select the cube, drag up, select my third cube. I'm going to zoom out so I could find the black cone, and then the last one over here. There we go, let's click on next. Once we got the confetti, we could go to send to, try to get the confetti in the screenshot. Let's click on done, continue. Now we're gonna rotate these. We might have to rotate these from different angles. We might have to look at each cube from a different angle, depending on these orange cubes that we need to align to. So let's click on next. So for this first cube here, I'm gonna select it, and I wanna look at it from the front view. So this is the view cube. I'm gonna click on the front part of that view cube. So now I'm looking at this first cube from the front. Because I want to grab this rotation tool, click and drag it to the right. Now for this second cube, I can't rotate it from the front in order to align it with the cube that's already on the work plane. So I'm going to look at this second cube from the top view, click on it, and then rotate using the rotation tool. This last one here, I might have to look at it from the right angle, click on the cube, find the rotation tool, click and drag to rotate. Now I'm going to click on next. Maybe find a view so that I can see all three cubes at the same time in your screenshot. Once you have the confetti, click on send to, download, and then done. Click on continue. So for size it up, this first cube needs to be stretched to this orange rectangle shape here. And all you have to do is select your cube. You could click and drag these white ones, but if we're just moving the sides here and we don't need to evenly scale up everything else, I could just click on the black squares that are on the sides, black square that's on the side, to scale that up. This last one here, we could try dragging a corner, but for this middle one, I'm clicking on it, I'm gonna drag the black square in the back, black square in the front. This one, you could grab a corner, so I've got the front left corner and the back right corner. Zoom out so we can see them all. Click on next. And it looks like we might have done these steps already. Let's click on next. You have the confetti, send to, and download. Once it downloads to your downloads folder, click on done, then continue. So if we group it here, I know in the picture it looks like there's 4 of these. Let's click on next. What it wants us to do, and you could click and drag these shapes around, but you want to click on the undo button to move it back, is that in this one here, it's 2 separate objects. This one's a solid, and this one is also a solid, right? You can tell by over here on the right hand side, once you have the object selected, you can have a blue ring that's around the object that you have selected. So this is a solid, and this is a solid. So let's move this one back. Let's scroll down for instructions. So you can select 2 objects at the same time by clicking on one, holding down shift, clicking on the second, or if you have a mouse, you can click and drag. If you have a touch screen, you could tap one and tap the other right after each other, and that'll select both. So let's go ahead and group these by clicking on this tool up here on the top right, or you can hold down Ctrl G to group. And what that did is it created one solid object. So let's take a look over here on the right hand side. I have a cylinder that's a hole and a cube that's a solid. Let's move this one back by clicking on undo. And that cube, let's take a look at this cube real quick. This cube does not have a hole through it. Let's see what happens when we group a hole with a solid. So I'm going to click and drag, or you could tap your screen, or you could click on one, hold down shift, click on the other with your trackpad. Let's go to group. And what that did was, when you have a hole and you group it with a solid, it creates a hole in the object. Let's click on next. Scroll down. These steps are for the second one that we just did. Once you have the confetti, let's click on send to, and then download, click on done, continue. So now we're going to be using the copy feature inside of Tinkercad. Let's drag a box out to this spot here. Click on next, and over here on the left hand side it's telling us about the tools that Tinkercad has. So I can have my object selected, and if I want to copy and paste it to these other 3 shapes, since I already have one created, I could have that shape selected, click on copy or Ctrl C. You could click on the clipboard to paste, or you could do Ctrl C and Ctrl V. Since I'm using the same object, I could do paste, paste, Ctrl V, Ctrl V. Let's click on next. Confetti, screenshot, download, done, and then continue. So for this duplicated one, the instructions could be kind of confusing, so let's click on next. Let's scroll down. We're going to drag a shape out And we might have to do this a little bit different from the instructions just so that we could see what this is actually doing. So I have a shape on my work plane. So you could use the keyboard shortcuts, or we could click on duplicate up here. And what it's going to do is going to copy and paste on top of the shape that you already had on your work plane. Let's click on next. You could read the instructions, scroll down. And while I have that duplicated shape selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my keys on my keyboard. So I'm going to tap the right arrow, and I'm going to click on the black cone to drag up. Let's say we're making stairs for a design. And then I'm going to zoom out. And it's going to take the change that I made and it's going to duplicate it. So it's going to take the shifting to the right and dragging up. And it's going to duplicate it once I have that object selected. So it's copy and pasting the moves that I made to that last shape. So I'm not taking this cube and dragging it way over here and then lifting it up. It's taking that move that I made on my keyboard and lifting up the cube by itself. Let's click on next. Confetti, send to, download, done, continue. So now we're going to use the hide it feature. Hide is pretty useful when it comes to moving something out of the way that you don't want to delete or that you don't want to move, and that you just have to temporarily move in order to alter or modify a shape. So let's click on next. Let's scroll down. We're going to click on this red rectangle here. And you could use the keyboard shortcuts, or you could click over here on the top right where I have a light bulb. And again, it's not going to delete it. It's just hiding it temporarily. So you could see some of the parts that you might have inside of a design that you might have to change. And then to bring back the object that we hid, we have to click on this light bulb, which brings it back. So let's click on next. Let's scroll down. So we could hide this shape again for these next steps here. And if I only want to hide some of these shapes, I could click and then drag our mouse. Alright, so it looks like I have 2 stars and the word hello selected. I could hide those as well. Again, they're not deleted, they're just hidden temporarily. So let me go and scroll down for the instructions. And I could bring those same shapes back by clicking on the light bulb up here. So you could hide one object or multiple objects. Let's click on next. Have the confetti. Let's click on send to, download, done, continue. So for this one, we're going to align all of these shapes to the bottom of the work plane and to the front. Let's click on next. Scroll down for instructions. So we're going to align multiple objects. So what we need to do is click on one of them, hold down shift, click on the second one. Let's move around our screen, hold down shift, click on the third one. And then we're going to click on align over here on the top right, or you can tap the letter L. And if you hover your mouse over these, it's going to show you where it's going to place them. So you could preview where Tinkercad is going to move with these shapes. So let's click on next. And what we want to do for this next step is align it to the front. So we want to align all these shapes to the front. So for my screen, the way that I'm doing this is my handle is over here on the left hand side. Depending on how you're looking at yours, it might be over on the right hand side. This isn't the one here. What this one's going to do is move them all down in the exact spot that they're at. But what I want to do is I want to click on this one, and what it's going to do is going to move them all to the front first. So now they're all aligned to the front. So the next step that we want to do is click on this handle that's over here on the right hand side. So if I'm looking at these from the front, I'm going to click on this one here, click on next, and this one's complete. So we lined them all to the front, and then we brought them all down to the work plane. So let's click on send to, download. So now we should have all of our screenshots inside of our downloads folder. So all we have to do now is go to the assignment inside of Teams. Now that we're in the assignment inside of Teams, scroll down to the bottom which says attach. Click on upload from this device. You have to make sure you're inside your downloads folder. I could click on one of them individually, or I could click on the top one, hold down shift, click on the last one, click on open. Make sure that all of these are uploaded. Now that they're all uploaded, you can click on turn in. So if you have any questions of how to use the different tools, or you might get stuck on a certain part of the tutorial, go ahead and let me know.
Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And feel free to watch any of the other related videos.